The year was 1518 in the princely court of Saxony, within the heart of what would one day be known as Germany. The winds outside the castle moaned with an eerie cold, curling around the ornate spires of Dresden's great palace like phantom fingers. Inside, the court bustled with merriment, perfumed nobility, and a decadence that reeked not of soap and purity, but of stale powder, rotting lace, and weeks-old sweat masked by rosewater and wine. On the throne, unmoved and sovereign, sat Queen Elfrieda, an iron-willed woman with sapphire eyes, porcelain skin, and the infamous reputation of never changing her undergarments. Elfrieda believed, with a conviction passed down from her grandmother and encouraged by her court physicians, that washing too often, or removing her sacred linens, would permit the devil to slip into her soul through the skin. Water, she declared, was for peasants and sailors, not sovereigns chosen by God. Her chemise, the innermost layer of her royal attire, had once been the purest white silk imported from Venice. Now it was a map of yellowed patches, hardened seams, and the dried crust of perfume and powdered musk. She wore it beneath her layers of brocade and ermine with the dignity of a crown. Her chambers stank of stale vinegar, rotting rose petals, and a peculiar warmth no candle could claim. Yet none dared complain. The scent of the queen was proclaimed as divine by the clergy and fashionable by the aristocracy. It became a trend among noble women to imitate her musky air. Markets across Saxony saw a rise in ambergris, dried lilac sachets, and false moles pasted to cheeks to mask skin blemishes erupting from filth. Elfrieda's rule was not just unclean, it was unchallenged. She was sharp-tongued, politically cunning, and held her nobles in fearful awe. She once had a bishop thrown into a pit of pigs for suggesting she install bathhouses in the capital. When the Holy Roman Emperor himself questioned her abstinence from bathing, she sent back a laced handkerchief steeped in her sweat with the message, "Even angels would envy this musk." Her people, however, suffered. Plague had begun whispering its way through the ports, carried by fur traders and sailors who docked near Lübeck. Tales of swollen lymph nodes, blackened fingers, and the stink of death rode into the countryside. But in Dresden, Queen Elfrieda paid no heed. "It is the filth of the poor that draws illness," she declared, "not the perfume of queens." It was during a fateful winter ball, an opulent affair with gilded pheasant, figs from the east, and music loud enough to drown out the howls of the starving at the palace gate, that the storm truly arrived. A merchant from Hamburg, honored by the queen for his loyalty, knelt to kiss her ring. He brought with him bolts of velvet, barrels of wine, and fleas. Not ordinary fleas, but those already drunk on plague from the Baltic ports, hiding in his furs, tucked into every stitch of the garments now stored in the royal wardrobe. Within a fortnight, the castle's maids began to cough. Then the scullions. Then 2 knights collapsed in the throne room, gasping with blackened tongues. The queen refused to believe it was the plague. "We are cleansed by Providence," she declared. "This is no more than a seasonal malaise." But Dresden knew better. The city gates were barred, the poor left to rot in the streets, their moans echoing off the cathedral walls. The castle became a sealed tomb of velvet and death. Still, Elfrieda refused to change her underwear. She dismissed her remaining handmaidens when they suggested burning her linens and bringing fresh garments. "My undergarments," she said coldly, "are imbued with the divine. They are a second skin. To remove them would be blasphemy." Yet the truth was more than spiritual pride. Her skin beneath the chemise had blistered, festered. Layers of grime fused with the silk, and the cloth no longer moved freely. Removing it would peel skin from muscle. And so, Elfrieda remained wrapped in her fabric prison, rotting within a palace of gold. Desperate for aid, the court physician, Dr. Matthias, sent a letter in secret to a monastery in the Bohemian Alps. The monks there were known for their herbal cures and alchemical concoctions. One responded, a young monk named Brother Ilya, whose remedies blended pagan earth knowledge with Christian piety. He arrived in secret, cloaked and barefoot, bearing a tincture of juniper, coal, and garlic. The queen scoffed when he was brought before her. "A barefoot monk to cure royal blood?" she sneered. "Does God send children now to do his bidding?" Brother Ilya did not flinch. "Your Majesty, God works through the humble. And your blood is no longer royal, it is black with rot." Gasps filled the chamber. The queen's eyes blazed. "You dare." "I dare because no one else will. Your chemise is death's cradle. Strip it away and you may yet live." Her silence fell like a hammer. Then slowly, regally she rose. "Leave us," she commanded. All but the monk. Alone in her chambers, Elfrieda let him approach. He peeled away one of her outer robes and stopped, gagging. The stench was unbearable. Her skin beneath was green-gray, crawling with sores. The fabric clung like second skin, yellowed and crusted. "It has been years," she whispered. "It began as devotion. Then it became a prison." He nodded. "I can help you. But you must allow pain. The silk must be boiled off. It will blister the skin." "I have endured worse," she said, though her voice cracked. What followed was a night of screams, screams so piercing that birds took flight from the forest outside. He boiled wine and vinegar, soaked the chemise, and began the slow peel inch by inch while chanting prayers in Latin and Old Czech. Her skin tore. Blood slicked the floor. Her sobs filled the room like cathedral bells. By dawn, she lay unconscious, wrapped in boiled linen strips, her flesh red and raw. But she breathed. The news spread like wildfire. The queen had shed her sacred silk. She had bled and lived. The court erupted in confusion. Some claimed it was a miracle, others cried heresy. But Brother Ilya stood firm. He had already begun ordering buckets of lye and soap for the rest of the court. Recovery was slow. Her body, long imprisoned in filth, responded poorly to air and light. Maggots had formed in one of the deeper sores. Yet, Ilya cleansed them patiently, dressed the wounds, and recited verses from both psalms and pagan verses his mother once sang. In delirium, Elfrieda whispered her regrets, that she had traded truth for myth, purity for pageantry. 2 weeks passed before she could sit up unaided. Her hair had begun to fall out, her fingernails turned brittle, but her eyes, those cold sapphires, held a spark of something new. "The world smells different," she said. "Not sweet but honest." Ilya smiled. "That is the scent of clean skin and humility." Eventually the castle reopened its gates. The queen made a public appearance, wrapped in plain linens, her head uncovered, and her arms mottled with healing wounds. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Some wept. Others averted their eyes. But she spoke. "I was wrong," she said. "Filth is not holy. Suffering is not divine. I wrapped myself in pride and it nearly killed me, and all of you." She ordered bathhouses built in every Saxon province. She funded herbal gardens, brought in Moorish physicians, and gave Brother Ilya the title of court healer. Public health, long mocked as peasant concern, became state doctrine. The queen bathed once a week now, publicly, in a silver basin to set an example. Still, the plague had taken its toll. Nearly half the court perished. Entire districts of Dresden had been reduced to ash and funeral smoke. But Elfrieda had survived, not unscarred but reborn. Her chemise, the original one, was not burned. It was placed in a glass reliquary, sealed with wax, and buried beneath the new hospital built on the palace grounds. On its stone was carved, "Here lies the folly of a queen, and the beginning of her wisdom." Years later, chroniclers would debate the tale. Some claimed it was propaganda. Others swore by its truth. The monastery records remained, and the drawings of Brother Ilya, horrifying sketches of necrotic flesh and fused silk, were found in an abbey archive centuries later. But one thing was certain. Elfrieda of Saxony became a legend not for her conquests or beauty, but for the cloth she refused to remove, and the nation she cleansed when finally she did.